Hey everybody, I'm back again, yes again, with another Godzilla review. This time, it's the 21st Godzilla film, and 5th in the Heisei series, Godzilla vs. SpaceGodzilla from 1994. This poster is awesome, and I think, I'm gonna jump ahead of myself a little here, I think I like the poster for the movie better than the movie itself. Yeah, I wasn't crazy about this one. From the very beginning, with the trippy visuals and the corny music, I was like, oh boy, it's gonna be one of those Godzilla movies. So G-Force has built a new robot machine to kill Godzilla. It's called Mogera, which is actually an acronym, but unless I missed it, the movie never says what the acronym stands for. But I did some homework after the fact and learned that number one, Mogera actually first appeared in Ishiro Honda's 1957 film The Mysterians, which I haven't seen, where the name is derived from the word Mogura, which means mole. And number two, the name in this movie is changed into an acronym standing for Mobile Operations G-Force Universal Expert Robot Aerotype. I can see why they chose to use an acronym instead. Anyway, G-Force wants to use this thing to kill Godzilla. But there's a separate contingency standing behind Project Telepathy, which would use ESP to control Godzilla rather than kill him. A group of characters, including Mickey, representing the two opposing sides, end up on an island, Birth Island, where we find Godzilla, as well as Little Godzilla, formerly known as Baby Godzilla in the last movie. But in the meantime, Mickey has also received a visit from the Cosmos, Mothra's fairy twins, warning that a space monster is coming who will kill Godzilla and bring destruction to Earth. That space monster does come, and everybody fights. I don't know what to say about this one. On the one hand, it isn't terrible. It isn't terrible. And as is the case with a lot of the sillier moments in these movies, that silliness generates its own kind of entertainment. But there's a lot of wackiness here, and there were also some production difficulties, which unfortunately resulted in the movie being kind of a mess. Part of the problem, which is a separate issue, is that Mom and I were back to watching the dubbed version for this one, much to my chagrin, and the dubbing is especially bad in this one, I think.
This Project T is a waste.
We have more awkward pauses, more mismatched voice acting. There are also a few bizarre inconsistencies where you see someone's lips moving, but there's no dialogue. Whoops! I do ask myself, might I have liked the movie better if we had watched it in the original Japanese? I don't know. It's nice that Megumi Odaka finally gets to be the star. Mickey's really grown a lot over the course of these films. I've come to enjoy her character, and I feel like she comes into her own here. Not that they didn't have her do some strange things in this movie. In addition to having powers of extrasensory perception, suddenly she now also has powers of telekinesis. I think the movie has good potential with certain storylines, like that of the vengeful pilot who has a duty to follow orders, but who wants to go rogue and kill Godzilla as revenge for killing his best friend, who turns out to be that hotshot guy with the RPG in Godzilla vs. Biollante. Also, the antagonistic-turned-romantic relationship between Mickey and the other G-Force pilot. Any kind of romance in these movies has been a rarity, so to see it dwelt on to the degree it is here is quite unusual. I just wish the script had managed it better, at least the English language script. Maybe the dialogue and character motivations flow more naturally in the Japanese. Oh, another funny thing they added with Mickey's character is that she's wearing Mothra earrings that are sensitive to something. I don't know what they're sensitive to. They move and they glow. Mothra is in the movie, marginally, flying around space and producing lots of mini-Mothras who come down to Earth to bring messages to Mickey. These messages are delivered by the Cosmos, who are visible only to her, maybe? These visits are accompanied by the Mothra song that I fell in love with a couple movies ago, Sacred Springs, so hearing that again was exciting and unexpected, although it's played so briefly that every time it came up it felt like a tease. Akira Ifukube did not do the music for this one, having refused to participate after reading the script. The score was instead composed by Takayuki Hattori. I like some of this music just fine. There are a couple nice dramatic melodies in there. It is a little heavy-handed at times, and it lacks a sense of cohesion that you usually get if Akube is at the helm. I felt like there were half a dozen different musical styles in the score. The nice dramatic stuff, including a theme that sounded kind of like John Williams' main theme from the Poseidon Adventure, the stereotypical, cheesy action movie music, and a theme that sounded like the opening instrumental section of Barry Manilow's Copacabana. The monsters here are serviceable, they do their thing. This isn't the most exciting Godzilla appearance I've seen, and the suit looks different, though I'm not sure if it's new or not. I don't prefer this design where it looks like his skin is grafted onto his spikes. That's kinda strange. Picking up where we left off, Godzilla demonstrates a few more positive character traits in this one. The last movie marked the beginning of a transition, turning Godzilla from an antagonist to a more neutral character. G-Force still wants to kill him at the start of this film, but it's a controversial move, and they instead choose to join him in fighting SpaceGodzilla, who is considered the more destructive, malevolent adversary. So you end up with an enemy of my enemy is my friend kind of deal. We also get a reboot of Godzilla as a parental figure. He's still kind of an indifferent dad as he was in the Showa era, but he does try to shield and protect little Godzilla when he's attacked, and then goes after SpaceGodzilla in order to try and free him. This last detail is something I only learned from reading the trivia page on IMDb, by the way. In the movie, little Godzilla gets dropped into a hole in the ground like a cage, and we don't see him again until the very end when he's totally fine. Between those two scenes, there's nothing. I honestly thought he was dead. As you can tell, baby Godzilla has been redesigned since the last movie. He's bigger, but somehow younger looking. He's cute. Mogera isn't terribly different from SuperGodzilla. It can split into separate machines that can operate independently, something I believe SuperGodzilla was supposed to do in the last movie. Mogera is more bird-like. He reminds me of a giant mechanized Chicken Run character, and I just don't think he's as cool as SuperGodzilla. That might just be me, though. I never get as excited about the robots and the technological anti-Godzilla gadgets and weaponry as some other fans do. SpaceGodzilla is the real draw here. Unfortunately for him, I am having a terrible time remembering his name. I keep wanting to call him SuperGodzilla. SpaceGodzilla is another one of those "what am I even looking at" monsters. It took over an hour for us to get a really good panoramic look at him, and even after that I still had questions. He's very ugly, and evil, I guess, and he's kind of like Godzilla if Godzilla had mountain peaks rising out of his shoulders. He has an ice crystal shell when he's flying, and then when he lands, the ice crystals disappear and form a protective barrier on the ground around him. I don't really know how to explain the crystals and what they do and how they operate with his anatomy. I just kept thinking how much they reminded me of Superman's Fortress of Solitude. I can see some resemblance, not just to Godzilla, but to Biollante and to Batra. I'm not sure if I was supposed to, but we are given a convoluted theory of his origins that relates to both of them. It's one of those delightfully, "you're totally making this up, aren't you?" bits of exposition. There are some very bizarre things in this movie, some that are related to the script, others that are more stylistic. I'm talking about things like this random use of a dolly zoom, the completely gratuitous shot of Yuki taking a shower. I didn't need that. The not-so-surprisingly bad guy suddenly turning into a mad scientist for a second. The essentially irrelevant and very brief inclusion of the Japanese mafia, and the scene with these two goofs at an arcade. What on earth is this scene doing here? My biggest criticisms, aside from some of those "what on earth were they thinking" moments, are that the pacing's kind of uneven, certain moments don't live up to their potential, there are a couple scenes that seem unsure what emotion they're trying to convey, and the ending goes on forever. The big fight is super long, and then all the human character wrap-up after that just keeps on going. But, in the movie's defense, this is not how it was intended to be. Poor dubbing aside, The movie's budget was greatly reduced, the production was rushed, the original plot consequentially scrapped, and the remaining story edited to the point that a lot of explanatory scenes were cut. For instance, there were multiple sequences involving baby Godzilla that were removed, all of which would have answered questions I had and given Godzilla some more complete character development. Granted, I wouldn't have wanted the movie to be 2.5 hours long. That is just too long for a Godzilla movie, but maybe they should have kept some of the more important, relevant stuff that made the plot more logical and trimmed back some of the slower action scenes that go on for too long. It's one of those things where you end up comparing the movie that could have been with the movie that was and feeling dissatisfied, and then feeling guilty about your dissatisfaction because they did the best they could under the circumstances, right? Oh, and in case anyone's wondering, yes, there's plenty of gold glitter dust in this one, too. So those are my thoughts on Godzilla vs. SpaceGodzilla. It's probably not going to go down as one of my favorites, but it has its moments. I'm curious to hear what everyone else has to say about this one, so go ahead and share your thoughts on it in the comments down below. Next one is the last Heisei movie, and I've really been looking forward to this one, so I hope you'll stay tuned for that review, which should be coming along in about a week. I'll see you then. Thanks for watching!